Joining in right now is Gopal Mahadevan, the CFO of Ashok Leyland. Good to have you on board, Mr. Mahadevan. Do you think the muted sales growth can be attributed to the high base effect and the deferred purchases during the elections? Because we are expecting a pickup now that the verdict is out. Do you concur?
I believe so, and I think it's right. There was a high base effect in the fourth quarter. So you did see that the industry degrew marginally by about 4%. We have been flattish. We have gained market share. So for us, it has been a good quarter in terms of our performance. You are right that aside of the the high base effect, there was also a little bit of uncertainty on the election side, and we must also remember that the impact of the new axle load norms were also being felt a little bit. So I think. Overall, that is why you've seen the the quarter volumes are tad low. But we also need to see this industry not in terms of a quarter, but overall. If you look at the performance of the industry, this industry has grown by 15% over last year. So this is possibly the fifth or sixth year where the industry has been growing consistently and been posting very healthy growth rates.
Now, experts are saying that the volume growth is expected to recover in FY20. What is the sense? But we could see, some sort of a decline coming in post that. Do you think it's safe to say that we are nearing the peak of the domestic CV cycle? It's already in the fifth year of its up cycle now.
Well, I don't believe so because of the following factors. First, I'm not going to profess to be a great economist, but I do look at some macros. The first one is, if you look at India, one of the challenges it's got is, if you look at the, I would say, supply chain cost as a percentage to the GDP, it's one of the highest in the world. You're at about 13%, 13.5%. Globally, the standards are around 10%. So there's a lot of cost that has to be taken out from supply chain efficiencies for the country. I'm not talking about the company, I'm not talking about a sector, I'm talking about the country. Because GDP growth can be driven much better if supply chain inefficiencies are reduced. And for that to happen, what's important is to have better roads and faster turnaround times. The government is stepping up the investment in road. Tell me, why would the government be, laying 21 to 25 kilometers a day? For whom is it? It's obvious only for commercial vehicle sector, be it for trucks or buses. So this sector will benefit from the heavy investment that is happening in roads and infrastructure. This is one. The second one is, second point I would want to share with you is, if you look at the penetration of commercial vehicles per million of population, the global standards are at something like 1,000 to 1,100. Commercial vehicles per million of population every year. We are far, far below it. And, India is regarded as the highest growth economy over the next 10 years. So I believe that if you were to look at, this overall scenario at a very macro level, I would say that, there's a lot of good that is holding forth for this sector. This is one part. The second part is, I don't think the industry has peaked at all. It has been growing. We have not seen any major cycles coming in. That's because I personally believe that, this era of, feasting and fasting are over. You're going to see sudden bursts of growth and then 1 or 2 quarters of degrowth or maybe flatness and then again growing. Because what people are doing is they are becoming extremely nimble-footed about their investments. That data is available very quickly today. It's open transparently. It's become a global economy, so people are able to understand what the demand is going to be. They place orders on trucks and other commercial vehicles based on the demand that they foresee. The third thing I would say is with respect to 2020-21, which you asked about, which would be the BS6 year. I really am not able to hazard a guess as to whether there is going to be a severe degrowth or whether there will be a degrowth only for the first quarter and that could actually pull back in Q2 to Q4. Because if you look at it historically, when the transition happened from from BS1 to BS2 and from BS2 to BS3 and from BS3 to BS4, each of the years when the transition has happened, the industry has actually grown. And as a sideline, I'm not giving it as a forward-looking statement, Ashok Leyland market shares have grown in each of these years. So we'll have to wait and watch how this whole thing pans out. I think if there is a tremendous pull from the customer side in terms of deployment of trucks and requirement for trucks, especially trucks, I don't think people are going to defer their purchases because it's a BS6 vehicle.
Okay, so tell us about the key markets then, because the south seems to be outpacing the north and west regions because of the relatively lower growth over the last 2 years. Given that you derive a high portion of your volumes from the south, if you could tell us what's been the growth from those regions and what's the market share expansion seen on the back of it?
Well, I'm not, I don't, I mean, I possibly don't share the details of, market by market share. Yes, you're right that we are a significant player in the south, and we are growing our market share in the rest of the country as well, in across segments, right? I mean, in some quarters we don't, but the basic strategy is to grow our market share across segments, across markets. So we have defend our leadership strategy for south and challenging the leadership strategy possibly in the rest of the country. And well, I think this quarter the south has done well, but I have also seen predominant part of last year when north has done exceedingly well. The growth in north was stupendous, especially in states like Rajasthan, Jaipur, etc. So, I mean, states like Rajasthan, especially in Jaipur, etc. So, we'll have to wait and watch. I don't think there is any definitive pattern that, the south is going to grow and the rest of them is not going to happen. You've seen, I think you will see a pan-India growth if there is growth that happens.
Right. Tata Motors is going pretty big on new launches, pretty aggressive when it comes to the pricing and marketing efforts, etc. as well. When it comes to the VECV segment, also said that, discounting still continues in the commercial vehicle space. Is Ashok Leyland also participating in similar initiatives to push the sales, as have your competitors, that's Tata Motors as well as Volvo Eicher? And could that then mean margins are under pressure?
See, I think there is no single strategy that the company adopts. I think it depends on the type of vehicle, the segment of the vehicle, the geography that you are looking at, and the pricing that you can fetch. Very clearly, the first thing that is important to us is growth. We exist for growth, so we will pursue growth. We will pursue growth in volume, we'll pursue growth in market share. At the same time, we are not going to let the accelerator off profitability. So that is something that we have to look at. So currently, as I'm talking to you, we are looking at our costs. So these are completely different strategies. So one is to pursue growth. The second one is to look at your cost, take out as much of cost as possible so that we can continue to grow profitably. And we have done reasonably well in the month of April also. So the discounting persists because the industry is, pursuing that strategy. Ideally, if you ask me, one should not be discounting so heavily because there is a healthy demand for, commercial vehicles, and we should actually be, fighting on things other than price. And our network, finally, why I'm confident about growth is also because of the network. The network has grown stupendously over the last 5 to 6 years. It was possibly 300 to 350 points of presence and has now 10x that in the last 6 years. So, our presence, especially in the northeast, central and west, has grown dramatically, and we're seeing the positive benefits of that.
Appreciate your time. Thanks much for joining in, Mr. Mahadevan, and giving us a flavor of how things have shaped up, the outlook on your overall volume growth, competition and pricing pressure. Ashok Leyland, as we speak, is under the weather today at 90.5 in today's trading session.